what we're doing here today at HCDE is that as attendance officers, we realize that oftentimes there's a lot of things that are going on in our various districts that we want to collaborate about. And so we're meeting here today. Today we're discussing dropout recovery. And so it's not that there's one district who knows how to do it all, but we're here so that we can collaborate, so that we can better service our districts and the students that we are responsible for in our campuses. I guess primarily the main challenge is the fact that oftentimes the reason why we cannot recover a student, in this situation is that there's just a dead end. There's no information that leads us to that student at all. And that's probably the largest challenge that any of us would face. Get involved in your community and help us to help our students get back in school.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Well, we got another school year here, so, we're here because, first of all, let me say welcome. And we had, as of yesterday, we had 57 signed up as of yesterday, and I think there were some additional people coming, so we have a great turnout today. So thank yourselves for the great turnout this morning. We have Mr. Jesus Amascua. He is the, when we initially came in and talked to him and one of the other gentlemen about the possibility of meeting here on a regular basis, they just opened their arms and said, come. So we just want to thank Harris County Department of Education, amen, for allowing us to be here. And he's coming now, and he's going to welcome us back in for a new school year.
Thank you. Are you guys excited? Yeah. New year? Yeah. All right. Let's start the new year, huh? Welcome. Again, have a couple of housekeeping changes. I know that you get certificates of attendance at the end of the sessions. We're changing that a little bit and making that electronically. So Danita out there, she's right there in the back. Can you wave for everybody? She's the person you get emails from to make sure you're registered. She needs to make sure she gets your email, or that she has your email, because you will get your certificate via email. You'll have a quick survey, and then after that you can print the certificate and you can save it in your hard drive. So that way you know, well, where's my certificate, and well, you will be getting it probably after the session. When you get back to the office, it'll be in your email box. Welcome. We'd love to have you here. We have Teresa Coronado over there, back there. She's will be joining us in the Center for Safe and Secure Schools as well this next month, and let us know if we can be of any assistance, provide or coordinate anything on your behalf, and we thank you for being here. And again, our house is your house, so welcome.
And so we're here today primarily, I know we just started school Monday. Is everybody in session now? Okay. So we're here today to talk about dropout prevention. Now, Ms. Blackwell and I, we're from Cy-Fair Independent School District. We currently have, I think we have 18, not 17 or 18 different agencies that registered. So we're well represented throughout the area. And so again, welcome. We thank you for being here. But this is not our show. We're here because we're all attendance officers, and whether we're whether we carry a badge or not, or a gun or a pistol, what have you, or not, most of us here are civilians, and so nobody else really understands what we do, and that's why we're here. We're here because we understand what we do, and so in coming and being here and talking to the different agencies, and having an opportunity to talk about things that we do, we get better at doing our jobs. And so we hope that this is something that's going to continue. I know I've only been doing this for 8 years now, but I know that some who are here today remember when this probably had been down through the years, and that you had an opportunity to come in. Let me just say one thing: I enjoy my job. I love what I do. And so I don't come in with the with the mindset that I'm coming in to complain about something. Let's come in with the mindset to learn how we can better do our job and how we could better support not only our schools, but our, the children that, we're here for the children, right? And so how we could better support our children and the communities and the campuses that we work at. Is that all right? All right.
I don't want to hold the mic, so if you can't hear me, please say something. Speak up. Today, actually, we'll talk about some preventive measures towards the end of the slides. There is a couple of things we'll discuss, but today what we're really going to be talking about is how to recover our dropouts. This time of year is dropout recovery time, so that we can hopefully bring back those students who are willing to come back into our campus, or either find them some options of further educating themselves, okay? So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. Please make sure that you have questions. I don't mind you asking or interjecting and adding something to what I have. This is just an outline, okay? So we want to discuss it with you because we do things probably a little different inside here as compared to some of your other districts and campuses. So please let us know what you do, share what you do. Best practices is what we're trying to develop here of doing our dropout recovery, okay? Oh, by the way, I'm Amy Blackwell with South Carolina ISD. I know most of you. We've been doing this for about a year. Some of you are new, so I just want to make sure you knew who I was. So basically, what is a dropout? Well, the dropout, based on the Texas Education Code, is, by the way, it's coded 98 when you report to the state of Texas. Any student who has been withdrawn by the school district after a period of time because they have quit attending schools and their reason for leaving is not known. A student who has withdrawn and did not follow through with the indicated plans of further education. I added that, by the way. I added that because a lot of times we have that as well. So just because they stop coming, yeah, we're going to code them as a dropout after some time when we have not been able to get them to come back to school. But also those who say, oh, I'm going to go do X, Y, and Z, and they don't do it. When you find out they haven't done it, you have to revert back to a code of 98, even if you have changed it at that point. 9 times out of 10, you're not allowed to change the code until you have that proof. But sometimes we get something, and then we find out they haven't done it. They didn't follow through. Like, for instance, a request for records. What we've discovered, well, I'm getting ahead of myself, so we'll finish the definition, and we'll move on and we'll discuss the actual code. It's also a student who did not pass one or more of the tax subjects. So that's an academic. I said academic specialist, is someone on your campus who would handle that. Our particular district does not actually, we assist, we usually pass it on to someone who's an academic specialist to then try to get them to come back, finish those particular, or retake those particular tests, or do something else. Sometimes they decide they don't want to take that, so they'll go on and do something in addition to possibly retaking the tax test. And as you know, that'll be changing. It's tax for last year, I think it's coming up now. Or any student who has indicated that they are studying for or has passed their GED. As you know, that's only state of Texas, that's not federal government. State of Texas doesn't recognize GEDs in any way. If you say you're going to go and pursue it, it's a dropout. If you've done it and you pass, it's a dropout. It's unfortunate, but it is. The only thing, and I added this here is just to make sure it was clear that you can still recover those students. Sometimes we get them to enroll in college because they have a GED. And as long as they're enrolled in 9 hours, college hours or more, we can recover them as a acceptable code. Also, now this is also the TEA code 78. This doesn't happen very often because we have JJAEP. We don't just expel them, expect them to sit at home. We usually expel and expect them to go to JJAEP. But for some school districts that are kind of far possibly and don't have access to JJAEP, they actually might have to end up using this code, and because it has nowhere else to go.
Do we have anybody who doesn't use JJAEP? Okay, so we all do.
Can I ask a question? Under the GED, it is my understanding that court-ordered GEDs do have a specific Dean's code that
Yes.
do not count against you.
Please, thank you for interjecting. That is correct. if you have been court ordered, but let's make sure.
Documentation.
I was just gonna say, we had maybe 2 of those last year. Yeah, we had maybe 2. And the reason why we only had 2, because we have a lot of judges, well, actually, a lot of district attorneys who suggest you go on and take your GED. But they don't make that the mandatory thing. They'll make that along with other suggestions, and then you really can't use that because that doesn't mean they went on to do that. Because they had an option. They had an option besides GED, and so that kind of voids that. And that's what's been happening. I mean, if you know ahead of time you want that to happen, you might want to discuss it with the district attorney when you're in court. Because if they say, oh, you can also go to a private school, or you can also go back to your campus, come back and tell us which one you did. You can't use that order then. Because that order doesn't say that they are ordered to just do the GED. So it's very, very, and you know, will TEA, we haven't come across it yet, will TEA actually be that specific and say, this documentation says either or? You can take your chances if you want, but I don't know whether or not that would actually go, unless it's just the GED. It has to be, exactly. But that's the thing, is making sure your documentation is correct.
Amy.
Yes.
Amy, well, we were talking about this last week, and Dave said that as far as for the federal government, they're still considered to be dropouts, even with a court.
Really?
It's a state exam.
It's a state.
Oh,
state
okay. Thanks for adding that. I didn't even hear that.
Right.
Okay, so what she said, and I don't know if you all heard that in the back, was that GED's court order is still considered to be a dropout at the federal level. That's a state of Texas thing as only as well. Okay. The reason why I put no-shows separate is because we handle them a little different, especially in the very beginning of dropout recovery. A no-show is any student who did not show up on the first day of school of the current school year, and that was August 25th for us this year. I don't know if the rest of you. And we'll talk about more about that because, you know, as a no-show, you're not necessarily a dropout yet. You're going to be coded as such, but a lot of our no-shows actually show up somewhere.
Well, let me just, is there a hand in the back? If you have a student who goes out of state and gets a GED and comes back into the state of Texas, then it's actually a good code. It's an acceptable code according to the state of Texas also.
Oh, that's a loophole. Thanks for adding that.
Yes.
You can get a GED in the state of Louisiana, come back and let us know that you did so, and it's acceptable.
Arizona.
Or where? Yes. Yes, ma'am.
So would the school ever send a request to the court to order a GED?
The school doesn't do it. When you're in court, you make suggestions to the district attorney that you're usually sitting. This is how it happens. And I know I work with Mr. Adams, sorry to point you out, but we did this a lot the last couple of years when I was in Gorzinski Court. And they'll ask you for suggestions. The assistant district attorney will ask you for suggestions, and that's your time to speak up. Because, you know, you can point out, and I don't like to do it too much because, you know, you don't want to step on anybody's toes, but you can point out, well, if you do the GED court order, you know, this student will then now not be considered a dropout in the state of Texas. And they actually think that's a great thing, and they probably will try and assist you unless the student is just adamant that they probably won't want to do that. A lot of them say they don't want to do it. They'd rather have a few options. Well, I may decide to go to Job Corps, or I may decide that I want to go back to school. What about then? And so then the district attorney is like, well, okay, those are all acceptable. So they'll probably bend to that, and then you'll have all this on your order, and then you really can't say for sure that it's a GED court order. Do you see what I'm saying? But you know, it happens. It's happened, but it doesn't happen very often. Because of course you want your student to be successful. In the end, I have to say, you know, even though a GED is considered a dropout in the state of Texas, I would rather see them do that than do nothing. So, you know, you're going to take a hit, and I'm sure that's, you know, something you had to do in the past, as well as we have had to do for the betterment of the student. Okay.
But when that truancy document is filed, it's not coming down to suggesting a GED.
No.
Okay.
Never. There's no place to even ask for that at that time. You have to wait until they appear in court.
Okay, I have a question. When a student gets a court order GED, like say October, how long is that court order good for? only for that school year? Or say, they come back in August and they want to register?
You want to find out,
No, you have a quarter GED. I haven't actually.
well, I've had campuses, not, they're like, okay, you have a GED, why are you back? But you can't, I mean, if they're under the age of, I don't even know if it matters, the age of the, yeah.
26?
No, I don't think it's that old. Well, is it 26?
26, yes.
I thought it was 22. Regular ed special ed is different.
It's 20.
Did it really? Thank you for adding that. He said, yes, it recently changed. I'm flabbergasted because I don't want a 26-year-old in school with any of my kids. But anyway, okay, so, they have to allow them back at campus regardless if they have a GED. But just because they got a GED, that's not a high school diploma. I've never seen anyone being turned away because they have a GED.
Court order?
If it's court ordered, you could, this is how this would have worked. Let me tell you how that works. When your student withdrew in October to take a GED and it was court ordered, you need to get that court order, change that code. It won't affect anything when he comes back to campus. It only affects him if he drops out again. You're already saved from that dropout code at that point. You understand? It won't, unless he decides to drop out again, you're good. It's though, and that's the reason why. If you think your student is going to be a dropout again, you try to make sure you support them in whatever else they decide to do. Because you don't want them to come back and drop out again. Because then you have to look for them again. At least by then you know them though. We have some repeat offenders that we constantly for. But yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the court order is gonna probably read GED only.
Yes.
And then the student.
That's what it's going to have to say. Or it's just going to say GED. Don't say only. It can say just GED.
Okay. And so
You
the
don't want it to say all the other stuff. Because
Right.
otherwise, I
And
don't
the
think.
student can make a choice, and then your code changes. Is that correct?
Well, after the court order, we don't have to follow through. The court has to follow through that he did that. We don't have to follow through. We have a court order saying he was supposed to do it. If he didn't do it, we need to find that out.
Okay. One other question. Sometimes the student comes back and says that their school won't let them back in. Is that true?
Okay, well, so, yeah, it's a case-by-case basis.
It's okay.
Legally, I don't think they're supposed
The
to.
school is a principal, and that principal is the one who makes the final decision.
Yeah, that's how we're gonna handle that.
It's my understanding if they get a diploma somewhere else, they can't get a diploma.
Right,
Like
they have
get
high
a
diploma.
teacher.
Now, unless it's one of those diploma mills that
Right,
like,
no,
heard
a true
about.
diploma.
A true diploma, no, they're.
They can't come back to school, but
No.
if they get a GED, they can. Come back to earn
Yeah,
their.
they're supposed to be, but still it's a case by case basis. Some principals make that decision.
Don't be encouraged to come back. Because we don't want
I found that out last week.
Look, I'll tell mine.
Okay, now, I don't know what was the source that you got that from. Okay, I haven't heard that, I'm not sure if that's legal, I don't really wanna. She said, okay, what she said was, she heard that if you get a marquee diploma, which you, as you know, is not really a regular accredited high school diploma, that you can't return to school. Now, I don't know for sure if that's legal. So I don't wanna say that that's true, because it's not an accredited school here in Texas,
You
so.
know, we have
I'm not sure. I would say before you decide to not allow a student to enroll, you find out more from your legal team. How about that? How about we handle it that way? Because that's what we do. We actually do that because we don't want any lawsuits. But any other questions? Okay, so we're on to the next slide. Now, this is where the fun begins.
Yeah, someone.
Did you have any? Sorry, Chuck. Okay, I thought you had a question. Okay, so first thing you're going to do, of course, is identify your dropout. Now, the way we do that here in Cypher ISD is we have a dropout report. I would hope everybody has access to a system that is able to identify your 98s and your 78s. I mean, because it would be pretty difficult if you didn't to know who was not. And when we talk about dropouts, let's remember, we're talking about students that dropped out last year, that after the first day of school. We're not talking about your no-shows just yet. We're talking about the ones that actually stopped coming last school year and you didn't find them before the school year ended. Okay, that's what I'm talking about right now. We'll talk about the no-shows in a moment. It's the same process, don't get me wrong, but you do a few things out of hope first so that you don't have to spin your wheels. A lot of them end up somewhere. Okay, so after you have your dropout report, and I put this in there just at the last moment, by the way. Be sure to enter your request for records prior to running that report, because then your report might be inflated. Our registrars are very busy at the beginning of the school year. And yes, this is not, this has personal information on it, so I can't show it to you personally, but our reports pretty much look like this, and it has name, ID, school that they're attending, their state reported ID, which is their social usually, unless they're not born here. Their race, and that's important, and we'll talk about that in a minute as well. Their birthday, their meal status code, that's also important, if they're low income. You want to work a little harder on those who are in your minority groups, and you want to work a little harder on those in your lower economic groups, okay? And the reason why I say that is because they're going to hit you in different places when it comes to your AYT, okay? And I hope some of you are aware of that, but we'll give you a touch on it a little bit. Their age, we look at their age because they're over the age of 18, we can't file charges on them. So it's kind of important to know that because you want to use a different strategy when you're talking about adults, essentially, okay? Their code, and the reason why. We have internal codes that are considered 98s, and I didn't bring those up because they're internal codes for Cypher ISD. We want to identify the difference between a GED taker and a GED attempter. We have two different codes for those. We have tax non-grads. We want to identify those because when I don't look at the tax non-grads right away, and the reason why is my academic specialist does that. She looks for them. She tries to get them to take the test. And then if she can't get anywhere or she needs me to make a home visit, then I do it. Okay, that's why you need to know these different breakdowns in order for you not to spend as much time in the field knocking on the door or on the phone trying to find these students that could potentially be easy to handle through an academic specialist or something, okay? Also, their withdrawal date, that's also important. You'll know the difference between a no-show and a dropout. If you have a date of like September on here, why didn't anybody do anything and find a student all year long? You have all year long. And we're going to talk about that in the end because that's where you're preventive, and not necessarily preventive, but that's how you keep on top of your dropouts. Because we're not going to be talking about what you do academically or support them. Counselors do that. We know that your counselor should be supporting these students academically so they don't drop out. We take them to court. That's about all we do and try to get them not to drop out. I mean, that's kind of punitive. It's not really supporting them. So that's something that you might, your academic side would probably handle and try and keep them from actually becoming a dropout. We only handle the punitive side of trying to keep them. And you know, it works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. And we get those that you can actually turn around, it's great. But a lot of times you see them again next year in court as well. So anyway, all right. Did you want to add something?
Could you pull up the phone page?
Oh, we haven't got there yet. Next. Okay, so once you've run your report and excluded anybody who you had a registrar request for records, and I'm sorry, I might be using lingo. Everybody knows what a request for records is, don't they? It comes from another Texas school. Remember, you will never get a request for records electronically. We're talking about electronically in the TEA system from anything other than a public school here in Texas. Be clear on that. The way you get requests for records from private schools inside of Texas is usually through a fax or mailman, okay? That's a little different, but we're including those as well. But I just want you to make sure that you realize anything in the TEA system is always going to be public. It's going to be code of 80. So anyhow, once you've done that, it brings your list down, hopefully. So now, you need to contact your dropouts. There is a phone bank sheet that we use here in Cypher ISD. Not sure if you have anything. I'm not sure if you have anything that you use. Oops, wait a minute. Help me out here. I'm trying to, excuse me, I want to show you all what we actually, here. Okay, we blanked it out, of course, this is student information. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just have to mention, just because you get a T-Rex saying a request for records, it doesn't necessarily mean that kid actually enrolled there.
And we were going to talk about that as well. It was a little further down. Thank you for adding it. I don't want anyone to be confused that when you get a request for records, unless you look in the PEMS database, which we, by the way, we didn't really want to, go too long in detail about it, but we have a way, the 6 of us have a way to look into PEEMS. And the only way that they are listed in that particular section of PEEMS is if they are actually have enrolled. Okay, and so our registrars, unfortunately, they get the request for records and think that the student has enrolled. Unless you send a verification of enrollment, you're not sure that they actually followed through, okay? So our registrars have been kind of figuring that out and learning that somewhat the hard way now, because we didn't realize that some of those students, they'll come back and then you'll get an exception when you report to TEA. Okay, that's something that your PEEMS coordinator will, and hopefully you have one, somebody who deals with that, that will then have to let you know that, okay, we have this exception, the student did show up as an 80, you know, which is a Texas school. And so at that time, they're considered, they're reverted back to a 98. It's too late for you, unless they started doing something prior to September, the last Friday of September, which is your school start window, then you've lost that student. And that happens occasionally. But that's why we try to cover our bases. When we get a fax in from a public school outside of Texas or a private school inside or outside, what we do is, if it does not say enrolled or does not give us an enrollment date, we send a VOE, which is a verification of enrollment. You can do that with your public schools or simply call their registrar. But you need to document who that registrar was and make sure that that they have let you know the actual enrollment date of that student. Okay, you can just document that on the bottom. We have a withdrawal authorization form, and I was going to show you that as well. Again, it's just something internal though, so you might want to, if you don't have anything similar to that, you might want to consider making sure that you write down that information for zoning. If you get audited by TEA, it needs to be there. You need to say who you spoke to, what their title is, and the enrollment. Okay, and the date. Thanks for telling us that. That was great. Okay, so the drop-off home banking. This is what our PEEMS coordinator for our district generates for us. By the way, it hasn't been generated yet. It'll be generated
Friday or Tuesday.
Tomorrow? Or next Friday? Tomorrow. Okay. Tomorrow. And from this, the way it's ran, of course, is she indicates in the system that she wants it to come up with this information for anybody with a withdrawal code, either, well, we're going to say generally a dropout code. And the reason why, because remember, I have internal codes that are considered 98, that are not a 98. And we have a 33. You probably never heard of that. That's just internal. So your district might have internal ones as well. Our 33 is just that they were supposed to go to another Black Area school and they never showed up. Okay? So things like that. 22, they attempted a GED. What was the one that they got a GED? 31. 31. So yeah. So we have these different codes that you wouldn't understand. So I just want to point that out. But this one in particular, thank God, it was a 98, so it makes it really simple. As you can see, the withdrawal authorization code is up in the corner. Remember, we want to know their race, their meal status, depending on 01 or 02. 01 or 02 is either reduced or free. And of course, the other identifying information. We use this, and then let me show you the bottom of it. This is where you document. We have all this blank space right here. Nice, I usually write all in there too. And then right here on the bottom is where we document what happened when we make a phone call, okay? And here's your oral statement documentation. Remember what I just said. If you talk to a registrar somewhere, document it. If you talk to a family member and they went out of the country, our really easy code 16, you want to document that here. This is where you can, but remember, you all should have Appendix D, TEA Appendix D. Your campuses, your school should give you Appendix D. It's like a Bible. If you don't have a copy, it's on TEA's website. You have to follow it in order to make sure that your codes are acceptable, okay, just so you know whenever you're recovering. And there's only certain ones that can allow for oral statements. And 16 is one of them, and of course, if you speak to a representative of that school, a registrar is another. But you can also use it, not necessarily clear a code, but also use it when you want to talk to a relative friend and they give you information such as a new phone number that you needed or, you know, whatever. But it also can be for those official oral statements you can take to clear a code. But as you see, it's pretty simple. They enrolled at a school, you get the name, you need a phone number, you need all that information in order for you to contact them. Because if you haven't gotten a request for records yet, you're going to want to contact them and at least get a verification of enrollment. Homeschool, okay, well, they started, this is not gonna clear our homeschool code. We have a form, it has to be a little bit more detailed. You may or may not have a form in your school district for homeschool, but it has to be worded correctly. Make sure that you realize that the wording is very, very, very important in a homeschool code. They have to have already begun homeschooling in order to use that code. So the date needs to be beforehand. So if they told you today that they started yesterday, you're good. And they have to state that in a written and signed statement, okay? They say, oh, I'm gonna start tomorrow. Not good. You have to wait until after tomorrow to then contact them again or have them fill out the form at that time, okay? They have to have already started. Return home country, you know, that's real simple. You can get that statement from just about anybody. You've got it from the gardener, seriously. I did that one year. Somebody else did it from somebody working on a house, painter. There you go. We get it from anybody. Oh, they moved to Mexico. They, you know. And if you can, now you need to go one step further, at least I do, and we do. Go a little step further and make sure that was a home country. Because if you know the people who say they're African American and they said they went to Mexico. I'm just saying, you want to make sure, and what we do is we go into our, what we call our Q folder, and we look and see if we can identify or put that together. Does that make sense? Because see, it won't be a 16 at that point. They went to Mexico for a job, because this happens all the time, okay? And that's not their birthplace, and they went there for a job. It's going to be an 80, help me out, 82. Okay, it's going to be 82. It's out of state. That's all it is. It's out of state. You know it's out of country, it's out of state. It's as simple as that. You don't want to code it as a 16 and then it's not home country, okay?
What about Puerto Rico?
Go ahead and speak on that, Dave. We kind of just talked about Puerto Rico recently.
It's an American, I had one last year, and it was at one of my high schools, and my registrar, she gave it a code of 16 because he was from Puerto Rico and he went back. And we do, well, we didn't want to talk about it, but we do audits, we do Libra Code audits throughout the school year.
That's a whole nother training.
Right, and so through the Libra Code audit, I went in and I found out, I said, well, no, Puerto Rico is an American territory. So he's a 98. And so we had to change the code. We actually tracked him down to San Antonio, but he wasn't enrolled in school, so he was still a 98. But, and also in regards to home country, it doesn't matter where the child is born at. It's the country of origin for the parents. So, you know, if the child was born in the United States and they went back to the parents' home country, wherever that is, then a code of 16 would be good because it's to the parents' home country, birth country, not the students.
Correct, thank you.
The 82, to clarify, it's not just for a job, it has to be out of state, enrolled in a private or public institution, then you have documentation.
Yes, yes ma'am. Oh, when I said job, I meant that they could have moved to that country for a job.
Right, but they have to be, you have that
yes, they have to be
enrolled.
You have to follow all the documentation requirements for an 82, that's correct. And it's much more detailed again than 16.
I can imagine some of you in HISD, just probably like Cy-Fair and maybe Carolina too. You've got kids either coming from or going to all parts of the world. HISD is the largest school district in the area, well, in the state. And so I'm sure they, get emails, because we've gotten emails from, you name it, Bangladesh or Taiwan or China or wherever, because the parent got a job over there. And so we need to recover that student so that we can, put it in the system as, okay, now it's an 82 because the parent got a job and they are enrolled in school, and we have that information there. Thank you.
Hey.
Yes, ma'am.
Gary.
Let me serve. Hey, Gary.
What was it, the mayor?
No. So nice today.
The phone bank, it sounded like just we called. You want to explain?
No, that's on the next, I'm sorry. And I interjected this a little early. It was on the slide. Give me 1 second. I'm going to get to that. And then, of course, enroll in a college, you have to be 9 hours or more. Can you help me put this? Because I don't really know how. Pardon me for not knowing how to put this. I just need to go back to it. Okay, so that was what, okay, back up. I'm sorry. I need to back up. the phone bank script is our, and assemble a team. That's gonna come in a second. That's what Gary was talking about. Who makes these phone calls? And we're gonna talk about that in a second, okay? Because it's not just you. I would hope it's not just you, because if you have lists like we do, you can't do it alone. Okay, so, the phone bank script was, I had opened it. Seconds. I just had to end up on it. A little challenge. Here's a phone bank script. And, okay, it's scripted.
Everybody tilt your head to the right.
And this is. How do you think? Okay, anybody know how to make it? Okay, if you're not ready, we don't have to do this that way. Rotate, there we go. Rotate.
Keep going.
We're gonna keep going. All right. Reach out to drop out, that's what we called it some years ago. Oh.
Technical expert, come on.
Yeah, no, Bobby was so good at this. I appreciate you, Bobby. Thank you. This is Bobby Jones, by the way. Tennis officer. All right, so basically we gave this, and the reason why is because we'll talk about the team in a minute. Again, we haven't talked about the team that you assemble. But you cannot, unfortunately, train everybody on what to say. So it's good to give them something so that they know what to ask for, okay? We gave them something very simple because we want them asking the right questions. And I don't think I'm gonna read this whole thing. I don't think you need me to read this whole thing. It's a little long, because there's different things you're gonna say. And look, by the way, if you noticed, this is our phone bank sheet first, okay? We included it on the script, so you know what to say and when. You start with the most plausible phone number to call, of course, which would be a parent or guardian, both of them if you have both of them. And you move down from there. There's several things that you're going to want to ask them, though, and make sure you ask them before you get them off the phone, because once you get them off the phone, a lot of times they won't answer the phone for you again. I've had that happen. They recognize your phone number. Okay, I don't want to talk to them again. What do they need this week? So you want to ask all the questions. Do you know, especially if it's not the parent guardian. Because if it's the parent guardian, you're pretty much going to get what you need. A lot of times, you're going to get what you need. Because either they're going to tell you they're in school or they're not. If they're not, they're going to have to offer some options. Try to get them to come into the campus so that you don't make a trip out to their house. But if hey, we've done it. We've sat down at the house at the table and tried to get it all worked out. If you have to. But you want them to come in and talk to you, so you try to make appointments. But you want to get all the information you need on the sheet so that you don't call them back. You don't need to call them back, right? And so there's just some things that you can say. I'm not going to again.
Amy.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
The reason we developed this phone bank sheet is not because of that we needed it,
right,
the attendance officers, but because of the people that we requested to help us at the campuses, right, the APs, the counselors, anyone else that we could get. Because anyone who works in the district is a representative of your superintendent and can sign these at the bottom, and that's good. So we developed it for that reason, not to...
Yes, thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gary. Yeah, we used to actually have volunteers help out with this as well, but we've kind of gotten away from that, and it's more of, as long as, it's personnel at the school or they work for some.
Any of you having a walk this year?
Oh, okay. Yes.
We have volunteers coming from Center Point and various other. It's a big deal. We started.
And so, of course, even with your walk, when they knock on the door, they need to know what to say. They need to know what questions to ask. So this is not just for probably your phone bank. It could also be used for your walk. Because you don't want them leaving the house and then you have a question. Well, did you ask this? And they say, oh, you didn't think about that. So think about everything that could possibly happen at that door and get as much information that you can get. Because you don't want to have to call them back or go back to their house. They're irritated by then. It's happened. I've done it. We're all human. And they don't want to see you again. They don't want to talk to you again, okay? So try to get everything that you need worked out in your head before you get there. And then the back sheet is how you leave a message. We actually got that detailed in it. It's the next sheet, I think. It's not on this one, no, Bobby. I had to scan this in. It's gonna be at the bottom. It's gonna be at the bottom. Just scroll over, that's it. And it's, again, to the side. But this is how you leave a message. Again, it's kind of self-explanatory as far as, yes, you're gonna need to make sure they realize what it is that they should say when they leave a message. Because you want them to call you back. You don't want them to say, what? And never call you back, especially if it's not a parent or guardian. Because a parent or guardian is more likely to call you back, hopefully, within, and then a relative or somebody who's just on the emergency contact list, okay? If you can reach them, you try to get them and get as much information out of them as well. Okay, so that's the lead message. If you can go back to the slide. Thank you. And you have a clicker right here. Oh, I didn't know how that works. I'm sorry. I guess I should have practiced before I. So yeah, that was about it. Go back. Go back. Yes. All right. So then we talk about the home bank script as well. Now assemble your team. Campus personnel. Who on your campus would know these students? That's what I always do. So what we do, and what is simple, it doesn't always happen, but what is simple to do is to distribute your phone bank sheets to your assistant principals and your counselors of that alphabet. I mean, they know these students. When we say that alphabet, if it changed this current year, we're talking about last year's. Okay, we're talking about still dropouts, not no-shows. Okay, so we want to make sure that they are the ones that are making the phone calls for their students. They should have actually been aware of them dropping out by now and where did they go and maybe have information that you don't know. We are personally not on the campus, and I know some of you in some districts are on a campus, but we're not. So unless we've taken them to court, we're not very familiar with those students. Okay, and not everybody you take to court ends up as a dropout. Not every dropout has been to court. So you have no way of really knowing all of these students that are on this list. You're going to know some of them. But so we try to give it to these. Of course, academic achievement specialists, we have those on our campuses. I don't know about some of your districts, but they as well have been working with some of these students, trying to get them not to drop out. You know, trying to support them, trying to encourage them. And they may have already dropped out, and they know a lot of things. They already, I have been talking, when I talk to these people right here, we'll talk about them in a minute, but when I talk to the counselors, academic achievement specialists, assistant principals, they already almost always know who these students are and what their story is. And they can tell you what it was. So a lot of times you're already, half the battle is knowing why they decided to stop coming to school. And that's another thing you can find out, and that's what I have right here. From your registrar and your registrar's assistants, because we have usually 2 assistants on our high school campuses along with a registrar. Not at the middle school level though, but we don't really get dropouts. You do. Some 8th graders, and they're legit too, sadly. I've had a few that were real dropouts in the 8th grade. Some of them we just can't find them, or we didn't get proper documentation for homeschool, and that's why they're dropouts. But 9 times out of 10, they're just 8th grade. But anyway, they're registrar, yes ma'am.
And they also have behavior specialists as well.
Oh yes, yes. We have behavior specialists. I learned a lot of things working with this man right here for many years at that campus, and he's a behavior specialist for Cypher LSD at one of our campuses, and we sat down together. When I talk about a lot of things that happened, I haven't worked with him for 2 years, but we worked together before.
You can't have him back.
Yeah. Yes, he has me now, so yeah. It's been a fight. It's been an ongoing in-office fight about Mr. Flores. He's excellent at what he does. And so I learned a lot of safety from him. He is also a former police officer. Is it sheriff or police?
Both.
Yeah, both
20
sheriff.
years.
Yeah, 20 years in it. So a lot of my safety, we're going to talk about safety in a little while because you don't want to just knock on the door and not think about safety prior to doing that. Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. And I learned a lot. Okay, so your registrar and registrar assistants. This is our form, and again, it has personal information on here, so I can't really give it out or anything. But you should have something called similar to a withdrawal authorization form. This is what you or either, not you, but your registrar, your campus, or your parent is going to fill out, okay? When they either decide to, the parent decides to withdraw the student, or it's an adult student, they do this themselves, okay? Let's not forget that. They can't decide to homeschool themselves, but they can also decide to just stop coming to school and sign this form and not just indicate anything. Sometimes they say they're going to do something. people that are gonna fill this out. Your registrar, if they fill it out, it's because you stopped coming. Yes, ma'am. If your registrar fills this out and they stop coming, it's not gonna have all the detailed information. But we go here to find new phone numbers. I don't know if you can see that I wrote on this. This is what I use as my last resort. So I've called and everybody, well, my team called. I made a next attempt to call because they give me the stuff that they weren't able to figure out, okay? That's what I do afterwards. That's what we all do. We take the stuff that no one can figure out, especially if it's a home visit, okay? But I go to the withdrawal authorization form. Did they indicate a phone number that I don't have in the system? A lot of times they have. So I'll say, you know, I'll put a date, left a message on that number. This is from last year, by the way. Well, anyway, that's what I do. And I do this throughout the year. So this is not just during this time of year, but I do this throughout the year. I go and find out. Your registrar should be keeping up with it, you know, trying to figure out why they haven't received any kind of form from a parent or request for record from a school or verification. You know, they should be following through with that as well, not just yourself. But anyway, so that's what they do. Of course, and they also, anything they do get in, they should be entering in your system so they can get it off the next report. We run these reports, by the way, we run these dropout reports about every couple of weeks throughout this time period. We do it throughout the year, but less, it's maybe every 6 weeks or so throughout the year, but in the beginning, we run it we're supposed to run it, I think they said they would try to do it every week at one point. Sometimes that doesn't happen, every 2 weeks. And the reason why is because your list gets shorter and shorter once you change those codes, okay? And so you want to keep up with that so that you have some clean data to work with instead of this. You should see these lists. This list is small, but I was just showing you, which I don't know what I did with. Oh, here it is. This list is short. Because this was just one throughout the year. That's why it's so short. Otherwise, your list is going to be much longer, usually, for your campuses in the very beginning of dropout recovery. So every now and then they run these to see what's left. So we can continue to keep on working on what's left and not just looking at this. Because I scratch through and I write through all on this sheet, and so it just becomes a little messy. Okay, so, and of course, your attendance officers are on this team. But again, our jobs, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong how you do it in your district, but our jobs are usually as a backup. We go knock on the doors, we make the phone calls after it's been attempted by someone who knew the student. As an ideal, I know it doesn't happen all the time, but you want someone who actually knows the student to be making that phone call. That's why I say counselors and APs. We do it next. They don't know who we are. If they're under the age of 18, though, you know, the first thing I say is, by law, they should be enrolled somewhere. So, you know, ma'am, I'm going to give you so much time to come down and meet me and decide on an option. Or I can come to your house, but you have 10 days. I told them you have 10 days. That's the legal. 10 days, I can file charges. And that's what I do for anyone under the age of 18. I don't technically do it, honestly. I haven't had to do it. A lot of times that's enough. I say that, and that's enough for them to actually follow it. So, okay. For anyone over the age of 18 and older, you got to offer some options. And, you know, we didn't bring any options with us. That's for your campus, your district to come up with this. What do I do and offer when they don't want to come back to the campus? You know, especially when they're over the age of 18 and over. You know, low legal recourse. What do I do? I mean, those are things that you're going to have to then discuss and figure out. And, you know, some of the good ones are the K-12, that's a public school, Job Corps, GEDs, but that's the last resort as you know that you want to drop out of. But, you know, those are some of the things that you can think about adding to your options list. Didn't one of those ones touch base with that? Okay, so now, how are we on time? So, right. Okay, so we made contact. So you made contact. Okay, this is if you get someone on the phone. Okay, we're talking about still the phone calls. We're not talking about home visits just yet. That's going to come later. But you made contact. Parent says my parent or guardian says my student is currently being educated. Get a name and or phone number of the current school. Send a verification of enrollment. That's public or private. Okay, that's required. Public or private. But if you have a private school and they're willing to fill out the form, we have a form that we have just kind of like pre-did so that way it's easy for the parents that says that what school they're enrolled in and when they enroll them, and that's good enough as well. But that's when you go back to your Appendix D and know what is acceptable documentation. We're not discussing Appendix D today. That's a whole nother training. We had a whole training on that just recently in how to properly document and code, okay? And of course, homeschooling. So also homeschoolers signed forms saying that when they began homeschooling, remember began, I will begin is not verb. Okay, so what do you do when they say my student is not enrolled? Well, at that point, you make an appointment to visit with the parent, guardian, and student. It's important to include the student, of course, as you know. You want to make sure that they have some input. Because you don't want them to become a dropout. You know by their attitude whether or not they're going to drop out after a week after the parents say, you're going to school, you know, and threaten them. You know whether or not they're going to actually stay. So you want to present options if they're not willing to stay. What have you, thought about? What do you really want to do? And of course, as a minor, it's still up to the parent, I guess, to decide, but you still want to meet with all of them. And you can meet with them, you can make an appointment at the campus. That's what you want to do. Save you some time, do you? But we've also made appointments and gone by the homes. People saying they can't come in. Or people that made appointments and missed them and didn't show up. You have to add them to your home to-do list at that time. What do you do when you do not make a phone contact? Well, I review the withdrawal authorization form to gather information. That's when I look for the new phone numbers on that withdrawal authorization. What did they say they were going to do? I sent a BOE to those schools. What my registrar does. I indicate to her to do that at that time. Well, can we send another BOE? We didn't get this, we didn't get that, we didn't get the other. Can we send something? Or our last resort, so we couldn't make phone contact when the phone numbers work, or there's nothing on there's no new phone numbers or any information on the withdrawal authorization that can help me, then we have to set up a home visit. That's when we get involved. Our APs will come out with us, our behavior specialists will come out with us. Remember, we're going to talk about safety a little bit too, because you want to know that it's best, especially when you're meeting inside someone's home, you need to sit down and talk to them about the options. You want to make sure that you're safe. We do it in pairs. Since there's only 6 of us and we have our own campuses, we can't take each other usually. It just doesn't work unless we're down to, oh, my list is great. I've done everything I need to do, and if someone needs some help, I'll go with them. But otherwise, you're going to want to try to take campus personnel usually. And we have what's called, I guess they're called dropout recovery specialists on campuses. Okay, yeah. And they're usually our academic achievement specialists. Not always. It's been also an assistant principal. And they usually will go with you, at least for psychiatry or, behavior specialist. Someone, and as a female, 2 females, I'm done it. As long as you have someone. But it's also nice to have a male and female if you are, alone. But, there was also, I brought this because I got this book today. And I read a story in it already. But since you put it on my desk, Sylvia, it's called The Gift of Fear.
It's a good book.
You saw it here?
No. Yeah, I saw it over there, but I got the book. It's good.
It's so far. I read the first story, and it's good. And it's knowing your instinct.
So where'd you get it?
I got it from our what is he called? Our safety director for the school district. Like I said, I only read 1 story so far, but I've done many more. It was really a good story. Because what you need to make sure, what we do for, what we do, those of us who are not law enforcement and have, a weapon on our side, on our hips, we want, bulletproof vest.
I am a weapon.
Well, some of us don't worry. A Marine here, former law enforcement. So some people they feel comfortable, but others, especially us, females, it's all about safety. And so knowing your surroundings. I've been doing this now for, I think this is my 7th year. And I think in the beginning I never even considered it, honestly. I guess God kept me, safe at that time. But then I started being more aware of what was going on. And I've had situations where I know people were high, and so you don't know what they're, how they're going to react. I even went to the home of someone I found charged on. That's not always smart. smart, okay, we're smart. Again, this was in my first 2 years. So, yes, ma'am.
If you, is that good? Okay, if you contact your local police department, and I don't know if all of them have it, but ours, one of the cities that's near our city that has it, it's called RAD program, Rape Aggression Defense.
Yes.
It's only for women, and it teaches you how to protect yourself when you need to.
Well, you know,
Highly recommend it. That's $25 you'll ever spend.
and that's great, but we never, and I'm just saying, I'm speaking for myself, I never want to get into a situation where I need to defend myself. So, yeah, you never know, and that's great, but I think you should always make sure that when, I don't think anybody's just gonna, I shouldn't say that. I don't think anybody's gonna just want to attack me outright, but you just never know. And before I even say anything, I try to.
I get pretty angry sometimes, so you can.
I've been told I have an attitude, but so the thing is to know, first of all, did you file charges on them, or you're not going to do it? First thing you do. Does anyone know? And that's one you want to have this personnel review. Because guess what? Mr. Flores here has saved me from a few incidences where these people were gang members prior to going to the address. We knew that their family was involved in gangs, and not just the students, the family. So you're gonna, do you think that? And it's not that you prepare yourself. I think that a lot of times you should make contact via the phone before you ever make home visits on these particular people that you think are going to then have some kind of. You want them to be prepared for your visit. You want them to know why you're there prior to knocking on the door. Now, if all else fails and you're not able to do that because you had no phone numbers, yes, make sure you know something about this family before you go to the house. Yes, ma'am.
Sometimes the element of surprise is nice. Though.
The element of surprise is nice when I'm looking for whether they're lying about where they live, and I do that all the time. I do stake out different areas on houses. That's when the element of surprise is good, yes. If they really don't want to be found because they don't want to go back to school, then there's nothing you're going to be able to do. So really, honestly, if it's the element of surprise is necessary, then I don't know if I'll want them back. I mean, because you want to give them some option because they're not wanting you to find them. You gotta ask yourself why. And again, this is just me speaking from some of the things that I do. Please interject in how you handle it. I just know that and then also the simple stuff: sitting down in your car and looking around before you get out. What's going on in the neighborhood? Before you open the door, don't just, we're in a hurry too. We have like 10, 12 houses to do in the morning time, and you want to be in a hurry, but don't be in a hurry. Look around, because guess what? Forget about the humans, how about those dogs? you don't want to get out the door and then a dog starts chasing you. That happens, by the way. It's like, big dog coming off the porch next door. I couldn't walk fast enough. I didn't want to run because I didn't want to chase him. And he was like a rock walker. Little bitty dog. Those are the worst. Little bitty dogs want to snap at your tires. Okay, I'm about to run him over. He won't move. Little dogs are worse. They're bad. I've had that happen. That was too fun. He chased me all the way down the street. But okay, we're gonna take a break. I don't want to talk you to death, but we're going to talk about safety when we come back briefly because no one really interjected, and I want you to tell me some of the things that you do. I know we all make home visits. I don't think there's anyone in this room that doesn't do a home visit. I mean, I just think so. So we're going to talk about it again when we come back, but we're going to take a break. Yes, sir.
I want to ask the uniformed officers, are you guys involved with dropout recovery? So you do home visits?
They're saying no.
And so we're going to talk to, if you don't mind, can you interject some? I know that you have done this training, obviously, for safety.
And I'm going to assume that everybody else is involved with the dropout recovery. You are actually going out into the field and trying to find these kids?
Okay. So we're going to talk about safety again. Okay. We're going to take a bathroom break. Information you're going to want to make sure that you include on there is why you're there, because we do other things. What I said, we do verification of address, we do just excessive absences, if kids stop coming to school, but just recently, so it's not necessarily a dropout yet, you're not sure why they're not there, you can't reach them on the phone. So So we do that. Dropout recovery, that's what we're talking about right now. In other cases, right down the line if necessary. This never happened because the print shop couldn't do it. I wanted a place for our business card, but that didn't happen. So it's nice to have it so you can slide your business card in, because you know your business card looks a little bit more official. So sometimes we put our business card on the door. It just depends on how much, because you get more of a response when you have business cards by the time you catch it, saying why you were there. Of course the date. But anyway, that's what it looks like. We'll leave that at the door. Now what is one of the other things you can do when you're at the door? Or you have to leave a door hanger there, a business card there, nobody answered. Well, it's a home lived in. You want to know that too, because if the house is for sale or it has a window that's open and you can see there's nothing in there, then you're going to probably be wasting your time. You can leave one. The realtor may call you. We call realtors. I've done it before. There's a realtor sign in the yard. Call the realtor. If they'll give you any information. Sometimes they actually have something they can tell you. Especially people back home country. The realtor can tell you that. Sometimes they don't. Well, I also go to a neighbor. Now, I don't always go to a neighbor the first try. If the home looks lived in, I wait for somebody to call me. Because you really don't want to have to ask neighbors. It's kind of a last resort. They start, you can be careful about how you approach the neighbor and what you say to them, so you don't want to give out too much information. You just want to find out information. And so, you leave this card over and have to do with the neighbors. They don't answer as well. They'll call you back. Because they may say, oh, they moved back to Mexico. There you go. And so you might have some good information on that. The phone bank procedures apply if you do not get a phone call back. So you do this all over again. So basically, no one called you back from the house. You gotta try calling the numbers again, possibly other numbers that you did. Because sometimes you're running out of time and you have reached a phone number that you left a message on and they just don't want to call you back. And you made a home visit on it. Try again. They don't make a second home visit. We've done it. But there's also some more things that we do. Let me go to the next slide.
Amy?
Yes, sir.
Something I'd like to interject. Before I ever go out, I look to see if the people own the home, or are they on a BAA, are they doubled up with those people in that house, that apartment, or whatever, because I want to know everything before I go out there.
Exactly. And that's also for safety. Oh, no, we didn't get around. How much finish?
And Amy said she doesn't, but if I go and there's nobody home, I talk to everybody around the neighborhood. There's somebody walking their dog, I've got them.
Yeah.
So, and they can help you out.
Yeah, honestly, the first try, if the house is for sale, I go immediately to the neighbor's house. But if it's not for sale and it's like it's lived in, I try to wait for someone to call me back. And if necessary and I have to make a second visit, then I'll talk to neighbors at that time. So yes, we all do it differently. Whatever works for you. And we'll talk about, we'll finish up safety, but I want y'all to. Okay, go ahead. Yes.
One of the things you said that kind of got, I'm sure you covered off, treat every house as it's a game.
Yes.
These moments you walk in, treat every house as if it's a game house.
Okay.
You guys hear me on that?
No, we didn't hear you back there.
Treat every house as if it is a game house. Know that your sheet, look at that sheet, see the parents have two different names. That's just simple things like that.
Who should be living there?
Right, who should be living there? If the stepmom, stepdad, when you knock on that door or approach the area, give yourself an out. Do not step back. Don't look through the peephole or give them the option to look in there. Place things in a position where they have to step outside.
Okay.
And then you can assess their body language, before you go any further. One of the things.
Follow your instincts, basically. Right. I mean, we're all pretty much should have them, and so yes, definitely make sure that you feel that it's an unsafe situation. If they're acting anyway and that may seem suspicious, definitely take those precautions. Thank you very much. Okay, so now this is what I do next. It's not all, by the way, I try to put this in a logical order, but it's not really in an order that's going to be something that you need to follow. Because sometimes you already know that there's a sibling at the school. That's easy right there. You can go talk to that sibling if you can't reach the parent or guardian. whole lot with them. Do you have their phone number? I need to reach your parents. I can't reach them on the phone contact list. Or you look on that student's phone contact list, it may have been updated there, but not on the other students, because the other students not coming. Okay? So that's pretty easy. You might get an address from a friend or a sibling where they moved, you know, relatives. That's what you know. That's why it's good to know your campus personnel know these students a lot of times. And they know that they're sisters, brothers, friends, relatives, okay? Cousins, things like that. So that's when you as, us not being on campus, will have to rely on campus personnel to assess students, okay? And that's when you start talking. What we some of the teams, we talk about all that, by the way. In these meetings, by the way, we have meetings all the time with these team of people that we put together, and we discuss that in the meeting. Oh, they start chiming up. Hey, I know so-and-so, and they still have a sister come here, and they start coming, I'm talking to them. Things like that. Facebook, we don't personally do that. None of us personally do that. I don't think we speak for everybody, we don't personally do that. We let the friends and the siblings and relatives do that. Okay? It's for safety reasons. You don't want to contact, we don't personally want to contact a student on Facebook. So we don't do that, but we allow students to contact. Because I've had a student say, hey, I'm friends with them on Facebook. I'll ask them, I'll inbox them and ask them what school they may have moved on to, or get a phone number for them. Let them know that you're trying to reach them. Either way, great, thank you, let me know. Paid record service. Again, you know that's only for the state of Texas schools that they have attended, public schools that they're attending here in the state of Texas. You can't find any information out on a private school or out of state or homeschool. It has to be public. But remember, not everyone has this capability. You have to ask for it from the state of Texas. We just so happen to have done so years ago. Registrars usually have a capability of looking that up.
Is that the PID search?
Yes, it is. Thank you for, we didn't want to really get into the details about it because a lot of people may not have access to it. It's a PID search.
HIT allows you and the employees to have access.
Oh, right. Well, okay. So our registrars do not have that capability, believe it or not. They have another capability to be able to look up records and get requests for records. Theirs is not as accurate as a PID search because that means that they have actually been reported as enrolled there. They're no longer your dropout. They drop out now, it's their dropout, whatever school they went to. So that's why we can definitely use that. And we print that sheet. We print the page that says the last vector line will say what school they're enrolled in, and that's all we need as long as it's not us. Because if it's you, then we can.
In the school start window, otherwise
Yes.
you're still your dropout.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. It has to be within the school start window, which is the next slide where I'll let you know. It's always going to be the last Friday in September, by the way. This particular year, I believe we'll see in a minute. But if you don't have that record search capability, your registrar does some sort of record search capability, and that's after you kind of exhaust some of your, you can do it up front, but a lot of times you might be able to get request for records and prior to that, and that's when the no-show also, that's what I do for no-shows, because no-shows, a lot of times you're going to get requests for records. You would hope that most of your no-shows end up somewhere.
Can I make a suggestion? Last year at Westside, we got one of our employees to print out pictures and we made posters, and we did it by the attendance office, and we saw all the kids coming by and telling us where everybody was.
Wow. And let me tell you something else that I didn't say. Our system has the ability to show the picture of the student. That's kind of important. You come across them, and I've had students actually lie when I was standing in front of them about who they are. Believe it or not. So it's kind of important that you know what they look like, and that's a good way of doing it, just printing all those pictures. What does it say? Like, the caption is, have you seen these people? That's kind of funny.
That works.
Yes, ma'am.
That's why we're here. It works.
Most
Who else? Somebody else? What else? Most wanted? Pictures?
She said they just do names. That's kind of funny. I've never actually thought, I've never even heard
I think
anyone say
some
that.
campuses do that though.
Yeah, we have done that. There's a lot of students. Nice. Oh, those are just for bringing back students that are going to become active in your system. Okay. Like for recovery.
They had to stay for at least 6 weeks or 6 months or they couldn't come back for 1 day.
That's nice. That's kind of like peer, peer support. Yeah, peer support. And, that's nice to have a buddy system put in place to follow the students that actually come back. And we try to do that, by the way. When you do get them back, it's really hard to keep some of them. And so having some support is definitely, that's one way to do it, having a peer that does it. Yeah.
We look online at the Fraser District.
Yes, we do HCAT. That's what Gary was talking about, HCAT. We HCAT everything. We HCAT for people who we don't know sure if they live where they say they live. We HCAT them. We HCAT everybody. We HCAT each other. Okay, so
So no shows.
the no-show. The reason why I put this different, and it's not different totally. It's only different because see, drop-off procedures apply once you get down to here. But the reason, what I do first, of course, is I identify them on our drop-out report as a no-show based on the withdrawal date. Your registrar's going to withdraw them as of the first day of school. So they're going to have withdrawal dates that are separate, and our forms show withdrawal dates, okay? Our drop-out report. So then you gotta wait for you want to wait for your registrar and put anything they got in that says that they're somewhere before you run the report, because otherwise your report is 3-4 times as long as it needs to be. You only want to look for those that you haven't gotten a request for records or some indication of a verification of enrollment somewhere. You want to enter those first. So that's why I wait to look for my no-shows a little longer. I started my drop-offs from last year first, because we know that we haven't been able to find them all this time, all these months. And they sometimes they haven't shown up somewhere at that point. Sometimes they have by the first day of school. Someone who dropped out last year might have got their life together and decided they want to go back and they show up. So you do want to request, you do your request for records for the dropouts as well first. And that usually happens pretty early. The no-shows take a little bit longer because they're just coming in. You just realize that they didn't show up and they're not there no longer on campus. But after you've done the request for records, we do a PEEM record search. You have to wait a couple of weeks because no district usually inputs in the first couple of weeks because they're busy. They have to wait to sort it all out. It takes a couple of weeks for them to have entered into CPA saying that we are now going to, we have now enrolled students there on campus. It takes a little bit of time. So we start doing those PEEM searches usually about 2 weeks into the school. And then at that time, you drop off the students apply. Wherever's left after you've done all those things, it's probably going to legitimately be a dropout or it's going to be a little bit harder to just find. They started homeschool and you didn't get the form back yet, or they're out of state and for whatever reason, those out-of-state schools sometimes take a while to request the records. And if you don't have a lead on them at that point, nothing on their withdrawal condition point, then you're going to probably need to start doing all those other procedures that are applied to our dropouts. Okay, your school start window, everybody should know what this is. I just want to put it up there. But this year, September 26th, it's always the last Friday in September. They must have begun the program of study or school by this date to remove your dropout. But let me tell you that just know that if you find a student in October, November, December, and they started before your school start window, they're still a good code. You're still an acceptable code. You can still change it. But if they started afterwards, you cannot be considered a dropout for that school. Yes, ma'am.
After the no-shows, the really good way to find some of these no-shows is to find out who their siblings are and contact the elementary schools.
Yes.
That's what usually getting records for the elementary kids,
Yes.
but not for them.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, that's true. That's why we included siblings in your search. And like you said, a lot of times you'll get a request for records in the elementary level students. We have a way of being able to link. It's harder though, it's not easy. So if you're linking from, when we talked about siblings earlier, I was talking about if they were on a campus, a particular campus of the other students. But what if they're elementary and the student you're looking for is high school? Well, what ends up happening is that you have to, it's hard to search that way. We have capability of doing it, but it's a little bit more difficult to do that. To link students from campus to campus. So if you have a way of doing that, great. What I was saying is that before you report to PINGS, before your registrar, your PINGS coordinator rather, reports to PINGS, you can change that code as long as they start doing something before the school start window. They have to start doing it before the school start window. It's not all is not law. We started doing a lot of other things. Filing charges, doing a lot of our other duties once the school start window is closed. But when we find students that have started doing something before that date, we're good. You don't have to, it doesn't stop there. And that's what we're going to talk about next is that, you do this throughout the year. Keeping up with your dropout. We do periodic dropout reports. So that report, even though it comes out every week or two in the beginning, it still comes out every about 6 weeks for us afterwards. And we do dropout procedures. We do it. We don't do it as often because it's fewer, the lists are shorter at that point. And we're talking about students that drop out after your first day of school. Okay? We're not talking about the ones that are dropped out last year. If those come up, great. If you get a lead or someone finally calls you in October and they start doing before school start window, you're good. But we're talking about after that, what we start doing is we start getting dropout reports for students who dropped out after the first day of school of this current year. And we keep up with them. So that list is short when you come back like we are right now. These lists shouldn't be that long. You should have recovered them. But that doesn't always happen. I mean, it's inevitable that you will have students that you didn't find last school year, but you should know something by now. And that's what I have a copy of something I was working on last school year. This was one of those reports. You see all my little writing on the side. Well, you probably can't see it from here, but it's in blue. And that just indicated when a code changed for that student, because I got something. It indicated what they were going to do, waiting on her to enroll somewhere. She hadn't decided where yet. So I contact her periodically. Have you decided? Yes, sir.
Amy, what's helped us at Lamar Consolidated is each month the campus is required to send myself and the director of the secondary ed a monthly report of students who have withdrawn. That way you've got a working document. It's small today,
yes,
hopefully, but by April, May, June, you'll have a good list of students that have left for various reasons. So that helps you stay on top of it.
Yeah, and that's what we're talking about. Staying on top of it. Very good. You have your own ways of doing it, however it works for your campus or district. Great, but just know that we all should be keeping up with it. Because you don't really want to come up with we get lists as long as, not including no-shows. Because remember, that's inflated greatly. I mean, it's going to be huge, and it's not always accurate. So we're talking about just your dropouts. We have some campuses that might be, more than others. Just depends on your demographics. It's inevitable. And so you can end up with 2-3 pages at the end of the year that you're trying to work now that you come back to school and we have to find them before the school starts. And so when you work it throughout the year, your list is shorter. We're talking about the ones that dropped out last year again. That's how much no show. And so you have less to look for. But by that time, you should know what all of them were saying they were going to do. You should have knocked on this door already. Okay, now unless they dropped out in the last few weeks and you were, the last few weeks of school, you may not have been able to go and search for them. Okay, so those are the ones that you should see here. You shouldn't see somebody really from October unless they're truly a dropout. You can do nothing hardly about it except for either wait for them to do something. Sometimes they're incarcerated. I mean, we can't, there's just some things that and they're not incarcerated in the state. We already know how that works, right? Everybody knows how incarceration works. If it's not in the state, it's right here, he's right here in the county. It's a dropout. You can do nothing until, especially if they're not being educated. Just remember that. They're juvenile and they're in juvenile detention is different. We're talking about someone who's 18 and they're incarcerated here in Harris County. You gotta wait till they get out. They're your dropout until they get out and do something. So there's certain situations where you'll have someone on here from way back in the fall, but for the most part, if you've been working your list, you should have very few on here, and they should all be from probably the springtime. And you should know where they are, or what they're doing, or something about them. And that's when you make your note. I'm waiting on a homeschool form. Yeah. So that's pretty, I make them at home visit. I couldn't reach anybody. I kept, that's why I'm making a home visit. Or sometimes I make a home visit because they're not willing to come to me. So those are the reasons. But, keep up with this list throughout the year, and your list hopefully will be very short at the beginning of the year when we do drop out recovery. Now, of course, the no-shows is like, whew, that list can be very long. And that's why you do all those other things first, trying to shorten that list before you have to actually start making all those phone calls because, parents can be very, they can be very irritating if you're calling them and their child is in a public school somewhere. Why don't you know this? I'm sorry. So, you want to do those other steps before you make those phone calls so that you don't have a parent that's upset from the phone call. Some parents that are upset when you call them looking for their kid, and their kid has never not been in public school. They've always been in public school, and how don't you know that? So try to do those other steps before you actually make those phone calls, which is your request for records, entering those, and we don't enter them personally, so you are at the mercy of your registrar. Just make sure that do those other steps before doing that. Anybody else have any questions? I think that's everything. That's all the slides.
Questions, anybody? I know on my campus, on one of my campuses, let's say I got 300 names at the beginning of the school year. Next Tuesday, we're going to start. That list is going to be divided up by the dropout recovery specialists. They're going to take that list and give it to the individuals on the campus. They're going to call initially with the phone call with the phone bank using that information. Each one of them probably, if I've got a couple of hundred names, then each one of them will probably get maybe 6 or 7 because everybody, all the APs, the dropout recovery specialists, everybody who's on that team, they're going to get the individuals, the names for the alpha that they had worked the previous year. And that makes it easy because they should know. And oftentimes also what they do is they send out an email to the entire staff to say, hey, these are the kids that are on our dropout list, and then they talk about that in the classrooms again. You talk about one of the things one of the measures that you do there. And so getting people talking about, kids who didn't show up this year helps us all to recover those individuals, or at least to say, well, look, they're not coming back to school, or they're doing something else, or maybe they are incarcerated, or what have you. But, that's some of the things that we do. We talked about using, whatever measures that we have that allow us the opportunity to do so, to recover students, we use. And siblings is a very good one because, yes, they always request records for, because I look at especially my 7th and 8th grade at the middle school, those kids have to be in school somewhere. And so when that request, if they get a request for records, and they'll let you know, okay, well, if there's a sibling that was at the high school, they've got to be maybe co-located either in the same household or something, but now you've got an opportunity to hopefully recover that individual. Randy?
Also, Nate and colleagues, your social workers are an excellent resource. If you have those types of auxiliary staff, they know a lot of those ins and outs of what's going on. So if you have campuses or districts with social worker staff, they're huge.
Yes, sir. Also our academic achievement specialists are those who work with average students. So I think that's similar to what you're speaking of, right, sir?
And then we have the KAIS workers.
Yes. Yes, we also have.
Community youth services, KAIS workers. Yeah, same.
Also, what I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention was, there's a lot of organization that I didn't mention that happens when we assemble the team. We don't want to double call a family unless there was no contact. So before you start, those sheets that I was showing you that we have, those call sheets come back to us once we sort through them and see, once the registrar followed through with anything that was on there that indicated a code that could be changed, they get those. We don't have to do anything with those. Those are done. We file we got an acceptable code for them to be changed. But for those that didn't get anywhere, then we get those. And we then sort through them and we look over them and see what needs to be done next. And sometimes we make additional phone calls, sometimes, because those APs and those counselors, they get busy. Once they've done their phone bank time, and they've given up their time, a lot of times we have to then follow through with it. They'll either, I think we give them about a week. It just depends. About a week or so. They didn't get a phone call back. Sometimes they get it later and they'll contact us, but we'll make a phone call after that. If they never got a phone call back, we'll just do a second attempt. But if they got a phone call back, or if they contacted someone and it maybe still didn't get anywhere with that phone call, we don't want to keep calling the same person. We want to go with that information and try to follow through with what's next. You don't want to keep calling the same person. They might get a little irritated. Also, some of our campuses do a spreadsheet. So that way, once they contacted a student, the next person, they'll indicate what the code, if it was a change of code. Everybody has access to this, by the way, on the campus, so that they all are in communication, because they don't always come together unless we're in a meeting. So that way, if you want to know whether or not this particular student, because sometimes the counselors and the APs, remember, they don't have the same alphabet. So they got to be able to communicate with one another and let each other know what happened. So that's just a way of organizing it. Just remember, this becomes, when you're talking about hundreds of students potentially that you've had to call on this phone bank. And by the way, the phone bank happens only after everything has been sorted from the no-shows and the dropouts. Just so you know, because we don't want them also calling anyone that they have been recovered through a request for records and a verification of enrollment. Because again, parents are like, why are you calling? But, so it doesn't happen right away. It doesn't, well, that's why our phone banks are only coming out tomorrow. They don't begin to school. We will only meet about this sometime next week and then the phone bank starts. We try to wait those couple of weeks so that we can do that team search. We want to get those off the list so that they don't make those phone calls. Because those students are actually somewhere. And they always have been somewhere. We just hadn't had a chance to get those requests for records or verification of enrollment from that particular school district. This is all slow going, as you probably can imagine. Your registrars are swamped with just enrolling. Let alone trying to remember who actually said they enrolled somewhere else so they can take them out of the system and all that. They have a couple of working at offices. It's a little bit slow. So that's why you want to give it some time before you get started, before you jump in and start making those phone calls. Yes, ma'am.
Did you say your registrars enroll?
They enroll our students. Your registrars don't enroll your students. Oh, okay.
That all happens at central office.
Oh, wow. We used to do that years and years ago, right? We used to help or something. I don't know. I haven't been, as long as I've been doing it, the registrars have been enrolling their students at the campuses. Yes, they do that all at the campus level unless they're.
That's not like that.
Oh, yes, yes. Enroll. Okay.
Okay, what we're going to do is, as we get ready to leave here today, I'd like to start in the back. We're going to introduce ourselves, tell us your name, what you do, and what school district you're from. So we're going to do that on this side, this way, and then we're going to do it from this way back. Is that all right? All right.
I'm Danita Owens. I'm the attendance specialist in Sheldon ISD. This is going into my 4th year in that position.
And I'm Patty Burr. I'm a community service worker in Sheldon ISD.
Clearly, CCISD, ladies.
Brooke Watson, I'm the attendance officer for Clear Springs High School and all the schools that feed in.
I'm Angel Scott. I'm the attendance officer at Cliff Creek High School. I'm Tuesday Smith. I'm their secretary.
Next row, next.
Ronald James, attendance officer, Cliff Hall.
All right, we need everybody to hear you. We need everybody to hear you. You're not just talking to me.
Attendance officer, Cliff Hall High School.
Latrice Wilson, the Trent officer in LaPorte ISD.
Olivia McGrath, I work for the city of Houston. I'm a juvenile case manager. I work at Wendell Middle School.
Michelle Davis, juvenile caseworker, and I do children's supervision at Casual.
And Lee Velasquez, HISD, dropout prevention caseworker.
Charlotte Zaconley, HISD, dropout prevention caseworker.
Crystal Carrington, dropout caseworker for HISD. Marcy Carter, truancy caseworker for HISD.
Craig Zeno, at-risk administrator for HISD.
Danielle Turner, I'm a dropout prevention caseworker with HISD.
Zaida Gonzalez, I am a JP case court case manager.
Ron Leonard, I'm a JP court case manager Waikisha King. I'm also a JP Court case manager for Judge Coffee Court in Bacon.
Lisa Cisneros, I'm a student case worker for HISD.
Sylvia Tristan, also student case worker for HISD.
Mary Ugalde, truancy officer for Westbury High School.
Bruce Arnold, truancy officer for Spring ISD.
Bobby Jones, attendance officer for Cypress Fairbanks ISD.
Sylvia Kruger, attendance officer for Cypress.
Gary Hatfield, attendance officer for Cypher ISD. This is my 14th year. But I would like to say that this is my 46th year in education.
All right, Gary.
I think I get the award.
Yeah. Henrietta Pryor, HISD, attendance case worker.
How many years?
Israel Flores, attendance officer, Aldi ISD.
Juan Flores, attendance counselor, Aldi ISD. Pedro Salinas Flores, behavior intervention specialist, gang specialist, Cypress Lakes High School, Cypher ISD.
Mary Kay Janaitis, director of evaluation, Humble ISD.
Paula Robertson, student caseworker, Houston ISD.
Larry Smith, attendance officer for Aldi ISD.
Sonia Legal, I'm with HISD and I am student case worker.
Jason West, student caseworker for HISD.
Clifford Heights, student caseworker for HISD.
Kimberly Green, student caseworker for HISD.
Good morning, Brett Gray with Lamar Consolidated Student Support Services. And if I may interject, let's continue these sessions. It gives us an opportunity to network, opportunity to talk to our neighbors from Katy and just be able to facilitate. So thank you, Sandra.
Anthony Vereen, outreach attendance officer, Pearland Independent School District.
We're all asking what a student caseworker is. I'm sorry to interrupt. A student caseworker, we haven't heard that job title.
It's the same thing.
Same thing, that's just our title.
We used to be attendance specialists. They changed
Okay,
that.
none of us have heard that title.
Yeah,
Well,
they changed that title.
Okay, same thing, just different title. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, Robert Dolan, attendance officer, Pearland ISD.
Jessica Harrison, JC Court liaison out in Katy.
Neil Austin, truancy officer for Katy ISD.
Gail Beard, of the attendance truancy clerk for Katy ISD.
J.R. Martinez, Katy ISD police officer, truancy division.
Jacqueline Duke, Harris County JP Court Liaison.
Raul Delmona, JP Court liaison.
Wendy Shep, JP Court liaison.
Vermillion Freeman, JP Court case manager.
Eugene Johnson, JP Court liaison in Baytown, Texas.
Philip Adams, JP Court liaison, precinct 1, Alpha Shelter.
Travis Smith, attendance officer, Clearbrook High School, Clear Creek ISD.
Joe Trevino, I'm an attendance officer for Cypher ISD.
Excellent.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say thank you for lunch.
Yes,
Well, here's the standard issue. They allow us to come to meet in this beautiful facility. They don't charge us any money, and then they feed us every time. So, is that all right? Before we leave, there were some handouts on the table. I don't know if there's any left, but the International Association for Truancy and Dropout Prevention is going to be having their annual convention. It's in San Antonio, Texas. So if your district will allow you the opportunity, we have two of our ladies that are going to be going. And are you still on the board, Henrietta? And Henrietta's on the board. So if you've got any questions about it, you can ask her. And once again, thank everybody for coming today. Hopefully, we can recover as many drop-offs as we possibly can for the next school year. Have a good school year.
I just want to add one thing. We've been doing this for a year. Those of you who are doing this for the first time, we've been doing this for a year. Thank you. It started, for those of you who have never been in one of the meetings, it started with our legislative update, okay? Every couple of years when the legislation meets, we try to do an update so that we know what the